Hello, gorgeous morsels. I haven't made a video in a while. My life has kind of been in shambles lately. I had a bunch of personal stuff I've been going through lately, and my mom passed away, and this has been such a crazy emotional roller coaster for myself, and I definitely have been wanting to make a video anyways because it's been so long since I've been on here, but also just talking about my experiences. And you know, the reason why I started this page was to connect with other like-minded human beings. I've always kind of felt like I was a lone wolf in this world, and I started this page to connect with other people and to kind of build that bridge to connect with like-minded souls. And so I always think it's important to share our experiences and tell our stories. I think that's how human beings grow, that's how we evolve, that's how we connect, how we become better, and how we do it collectively. We talk about our experiences. I know I'm not the first person in the world to experience the loss of a parent or a mother, and I know I'm not the last, but I did want to share some things that I personally have felt and been going through. And you know, maybe it'll help other people too, for if you have gone through this already, or someday, you know, hopefully many years down the road, God willing, you won't have to experience this for some time in your life. But for me personally, I mean, it's been so many things that I didn't prepare for emotionally, and I've always been so strong. And a lot of times, actually mostly my personality type, when I go through trauma or something, you know, like a crisis situation, I always kind of go into like damage control mode, where I really don't feel the effects of what's happening around me. I'm only solely focused on getting out alive. My body will go into like standby mode. So a lot of times I don't process my emotions until later on down the road. So my mom passed away June 12th. And June 11th, the day before, I flew into, she was in Pennsylvania, so I had to fly into Philadelphia airport, rent a car, and drive into Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And my other 3 siblings drove and met me out there. And it was honestly like the most traumatic thing I've ever been through in my whole life. My mom was a total powerhouse beauty queen. She was a Gemini, just like Marilyn Monroe, and she resembled a lot of Marilyn Monroe's characteristics. Like, she had that grace and that charm and that wit, and she was sharp and funny, and she would walk into a room and light it up. Like, everybody always wanted to be around her. She was very beautiful. She reminds me of, I've said this often, like Sharon Stone in the beginning of Casino, where she just walked in and like worked the room. That was totally my mom. Not the end part, because that shit got crazy. But I always joke that, like, when I'm telling other people about her, when I'm describing her, I'm like, you know, we looked alike. We were twins, like head to toe, same fingernails, same hands, same everything. But we were different personality wise. Like, my mom was so much nicer than I am. Like, I am super happy always, you know, being more of an observer of society, and I love being more introverted and reclusive, and my mom could draw people to her, and they always wanted to be around her. So to see her the way that I saw her in the hospital was it was something that I'll never forget for the rest of my life. To see her, she was on life support, and she was only 60 years old. She had turned 60 2 weeks before. To see her the way that I saw her and how fast she had deteriorated, she officially died of cardiac arrest. But there were many other things that led up to this. And, you know, someday I'll tell the full story. I'm not ready to talk about that yet. But to some of my more liberal friends who, you know, my Democrat friends who like believe in the government, believe in, you know, big pharma and everything, maybe you'll start to understand a little bit more about why I have the deep, passionate hatred toward our system that I have. There are many factors for this, a lot of research and a lifetime of dealing with it firsthand. So you'll understand maybe some of my background and where I come from and why I absolutely do not put faith into our medical system and our pharmaceutical industry and our government, who aids in both and is in bed with all of that. So I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole in this video. That's a story for another time, but I think you'll understand a lot more someday when I tell the full story. So anyways, we go to the hospital. I get there 3 hours before my siblings do, and I'm just alone with my mom. She's in ICU on life support, and like what I saw will literally haunt my dreams for the rest of my life. Seeing my mother in that condition, and it's something you can just never really prepare for. And after she passed away, she passed away the next day. I had to make the decision to take her off life support, me and my little sister, because my brothers just couldn't do it. They weren't ready to let go. But when we got there, we knew right away it was time. So afterward, after she passed, and this is something I would recommend to everybody, I immediately went out. There's a calm moment when someone dies, and you feel like that moment is like the loudest silent moment of your life, and you don't know what to do. And my first and only thought was, I need to do her makeup. My brothers left. They went to the bar to go get a beer downstairs, and my sister and I sat there. My sister sang songs to her and held her hands, and I did her makeup, and we put her music on. I did her hair and got her looking the way that she used to look and that we always remembered her. And then my brothers came back up, and this was amazing because then they could process it, they could handle it. This was who we were used to, this was our mom, this is what she looked like now, and I know she would not want anyone to see her as anything less. And I had a spare pair of earrings in my bag, big bohemian gold dangly earrings my mom loved, all kinds of jewelry. So we put those on her, and we got to say goodbye to her and have our own private little wake. And we had her cremated, which is what she wanted. So it was nice that we got to see her like that for one last time. When your parent dies, especially your mom, you have this instant, primordial aloneness, this sense of that you are actually alone in this world. And that's of course not true. And I know all those other comforting things that people say, oh, she's with God and you'll see her in heaven. Thank you, I get it respectfully, but none of that shit helps. It doesn't help. Especially your mother, who literally carried you in her womb. When she's gone, it's this cosmic umbilical cord has been severed, and you really feel alone in the world for the first time in a different way. I'm not talking about being lonely. You sense on a primal level that your parent is gone. You can feel it, and that is something I didn't prepare for, that cosmic void that I was gonna feel. And I wish somebody would talk about these things, and maybe people do, I don't know, but I'm gonna talk about them right now. So someday when you guys go through this, you'll kind of know what to expect, and hopefully it won't be for, many years down the line. When it really starts to get weird, or when it started to get the finality of it, the strangest feeling I've ever had was when you leave the hospital for the first time. You leave the hospital, and that's when it really starts to sink in. You've been through all this trauma, all the doctors you talk to, and everything you go through with your family there. You leave the hospital and you walk out that exit, and you really look at the world for the first time through different eyes, under a different lens, under a different scope. And you realize that from now on, everything in your life is going to be different. It just will be. That void that your mom used to have, or your parent. It's really important to be with people at that time. My siblings were all really funny. We all have dry, sarcastic sense of humor. So I got us a hotel room right across the street. There was a Hilton across the street. It was a beautiful hotel. And that was everything to us. We were like clinging to that. And if we would have done it any differently, I don't know how we would have survived it. But like we all got one hotel room. Like it was 4 kids sharing 2 beds, just like it was when we were little. Like girls slept in one bed, boys slept in one bed. And like to have us all together, just like drinking, eating, was everything for us. We were like clinging to that. I would definitely recommend to anybody too, like if you ever go through this, you're in the hospital, you also have to make sure that you are eating and hydrating. You know, I knew to bring like comfy clothes. I had a 12-pack of warm, almost like boiling hot White Claw in my back seat of my rental car. And we literally went out to the parking lot and like sat in my car and just stared into this parking garage in outer space. And we just sat there and all drank warm White Claws. And like in that moment, like it gave us some sort of reprieve from, you know, the like emotional, overwhelming panic that we were dealing with. You're almost like catatonic. You don't really know like how to like process like what you're experiencing. And being in a comfy place and having people who you love with you and having like the littlest comforts, like a comfy sweater or your favorite food or having fruit. For me, like I had to have a ton of fruit there because you don't think about eating when you're going through something like that. And I kept like giving my siblings drinks and waters and stuff, and they were like, no, we're not hungry. And then they started eating and they're like, oh my God, thank God we have this. Because you don't think about like your basic needs at that point. Like you're not thinking about anything. Another thing that we really were so grateful we did was to have a priest come in. And this was per another one of my friend's suggestions to make sure I have a priest come up. And that's something I wouldn't have thought of either. And you like I said, like you don't know what's going on. You can't make basic decisions. So the littlest thing will escape you. We had a priest come up and, you know, pray the Our Father with us. And that was really healing and beautiful. And I know that my mom would have wanted that. So that was something that it really helped all of us to come together in that way. Another thing too that I'm experiencing right now is nothing matters that you fought about. Like my mom and I had a complicated relationship. We were almost like sisters and best friends rather than mother-daughter. And in fact, a lot of the time, my mom was more like the child and I felt like the parent. And there were many times in my life that I've taken care of my mom, supported her, and always been there in that way. And we had a lot of fun over the years, but also, you know, I had a lot of beef with her too. I didn't appreciate a lot of her life choices. And my mom's had a bunch of spinal surgeries. And when I was younger, my mom basically lived like in our hospital bed in our living room when I was like 14. When I was in high school, I was so depressed in and out of high school. I really just couldn't function because I had so much going on at home. I really couldn't focus or like communicate or really exist like a normal teenager did. I was just so weighed down with all this stuff at home. And then through the years, you know, things like would ebb and flow, and my mom and I's relationship was challenging. But now what I'm realizing is like I would give anything for one more day with her. I would let her do whatever she wanted. I would let her do whatever the fuck she wanted to have just one more day with her. And you know, when someone passes away, you really realize nothing matters. Nothing that I thought was important was. And I wish that I would have just, I don't know, I wish I would have just let her do whatever the fuck she wanted. And I would give anything to just have her back for a little bit longer, like to smell her perfume or like hear her laugh, or even like while I'm planning her funeral, it's so messed up, but I literally almost called my mom to ask her opinion. Like, hey, what would you want? Because it takes so long to register that the finality of it, that like, you know, your parents gone. Another thing I would suggest to people, this is so important, and this is something that you need to take care of before your loved ones pass away. Like, have this stuff, have the details of their wishes in writing, notarized, legalized, whatever you have to do. Make sure you know your family and friends' wishes, what they want when they pass away. Make sure you have a living will. Make sure people talk about this stuff. I know it's hard and it's morbid, but it is so important to know these things. My mom and I and our younger siblings, we were all so close. And my mom told us from like when we were little kids, her wishes for her funeral. I remember my little brother would just cry. She would talk about it. She's like, I want a party. I want a celebration of life. I want to be cremated. I want Spirit in the Sky by Norman Greenbaum played. I want a band. I want everybody laughing and telling stories about me and having fun. I want it to be a huge party. And I don't want like a sobbing over my grave kind of thing. And we knew this. My mom told us this her entire life. And so when she passed away, we all thought we were on the same page. Well, here's the thing. When people die, or when there's any sort of like serious event that goes on in life, there's always going to be someone in your family that tries to take control and tries to make it about them. I promise. Like, this breaks many families up, I'm realizing, and I didn't think it would happen to mine, but it is, unfortunately. And it sucks because you go from grieving about the loss of your family member to being like angry and being put in a position where you have to fight. And like the simplest things, like make sure you know actual jobs specifically. Like, you are in charge of you are my power of attorney. You are, you are in charge of the financial assets in my estate and my belongings. Like, you are in charge of writing my obituary. You need to have these things like specifically laid out in writing, because there's always going to be some fucking asshole in your family that tries to come in and make shit about them, and it's not about them. And most people will be on one side. Like, right now we are dealing with so much bullshit and fuckery in my family. It is like unfathomable. Actually, over my mom's obituary, of all things, me and my 3 siblings wrote a second obituary because the first one got hijacked. And my mom lived half of her life in Illinois and the last half of her life, the last 30 years, in Wisconsin. So it was just a fucking weird situation where people stepped up and started doing shit they weren't supposed to do, like, just weird. And the thing is, like, there are always gonna be people who operate from various levels of control dramas, like unhealed people, narcissists who have to make everything about themselves. People are going to step up and make everything about them when it's not about them. Like, here you are trying to honor your dead mother's wishes and honor everything that she has told you her entire life, and then someone else, probably operating from guilt because they really weren't in her life all that much, or operating from their own like desire to play victim and gain sympathy and make people feel sorry for them, or to control situations. Like, a lot of people will come in and feel the need to dominate others. It's been this way since the dawn of mankind. Like, people just have control issues. So I would highly recommend making sure that you know all of your family and friends' wishes. It's so crucial. It's going to save you a lot of time and energy, and then you can avoid all the bullshit that I'm going through right now. Another thing that we did, which was really cool, when my mom passed away, we got on the phone and put everyone she loved, who she was closest to, on speaker and let everybody say goodbye to her. So it was only my 4 siblings in the room, but we all held hands around her. But we called everyone she ever loved. And The last person we called was her mother-in-law and my stepdad's mother, and she loved her so much. She was the last person to talk to her, and it was like she knew. We had already taken her off life support, and we had her favorite music playing, and when she heard the last person she wanted to talk to's voice say goodbye to her and that she loved her, she took her last breath, and that was it. And that was another thing that gave all of us so much peace. Like, we called her best friend in life. We called everybody. Everyone got to say goodbye. And that is so important, especially if you're not going to have a funeral. Like, we're not having a funeral. We're going to have a huge party in Lake Geneva, end of September. We're going to have a band and have it on the water at where I used to live, my old condo in Lake Geneva. There's a resort next to there. So we are going to do it exactly the way my mom wanted, but it's so important too, I feel like, that everybody got a lot of closure in it, and it was beautiful for us to see that. And you know, I fully believe that, like, my mom was there emotionally, and even though she couldn't speak, I know that spiritually she was there and could feel everybody saying goodbye to her. So when that happens, when somebody passes, most times you're in a hospital, but if you're not, and you can, open the windows. It's really important, I feel like, to let the energy out and let clean energy in. I always travel with sage, or at least sage spray, so you can spray the room and help the spirit move on, whatever's important to you. You know, like, I always keep candles and crystals and all that shit. Like, I am a moon child, so I will always travel with my witchy bag of goodies. And to have that stuff on hand was, if not for any other reason, it brought comfort to me. And my mom loved all that stuff too. Another reason you really want to open the windows, it's so important to get clean energy moving through your body, clean air. When you're stressed out, and all my siblings are going through this too, like, we all got really sick. It wasn't from my mom or anything. It's just, when you're really stressed out, like, for me, that's a trigger for my immune system. My immune system will go straight to hell. So you totally have to make sure that you are taking care of yourself, resting, eating properly. Like, I've been drinking a ton. It's just, it is what it is. I'm not trying to even, like, think about, you know, anything other than surviving day to day right now. So, whatever you have to do to get through it. Another thing that really helped me, like, this past weekend, was taking an adventure. Like, if I would have just stayed in my apartment, left to my own devices, I would just wallow into misery. Working has been everything to me. I came home after my mom passed away, and I had a gig that I'd been wanting to play at for a long time. It's this really cute, like 60s in Vegas, like, Rat Pack style little club in Florida, South Florida. And it was my first opportunity to play there, so I, like, had to take it, even though I was dying with grief inside. But it actually was so good for me to be outside of myself. It was the first 3 hours that I had made it through without breaking down into total, a total puddle. So working for me has been really important. Even if I can't, like, sing, I've been DJing a lot too. So I've been just, like, trying to book more DJing gigs. That way I can lose myself in, like, the purity of the beats and the music, and kind of just go, like, one with the universe vibe. So working has been everything. But this past weekend, I went to New York. My girlfriend has a mountain, gorgeous lodge retreat center that she just acquired and is renovating. And I went and saw live music, had a show. Like, it was amazing, and I was all in, like, a new environment. So there was no space for me to really think about my mom. There was no space for me to break down, because I was with new people, a lot of new people. So I'm not going to go and sit and just bawl my eyes out in the corner. So it forced me to get out of my own, microcosm of heavy, sad energy and grief. So that was incredible, and I would highly recommend to everyone. It's the last thing you want to do. It's like going to the gym. It's the last thing that you want to do, but you have to make yourself, because it will heal you in ways you can't imagine. It will give you that energy boost that you've been craving. And it makes things so much better when friends are around and people who love you. A call to adventure is exactly what is needed, I think, when people pass away. Because everything is fucking hard. Everything is so hard. Brushing your teeth is hard. Like, literally, there are times where I just lay in bed and I'm like, fuck that. I'm not doing it. Everything is difficult, the most mundane tasks. So when you are able to force yourself to get outside of your own, like, wallowing in your own grief, it has helped me tremendously. Movies, be careful what kind of movies you watch. Holy balls. Like, I have never seen so many funeral scenes in my life. All of a sudden, every single show that I watch, or Netflix or whatever I try to put on, has a funeral scene all of a sudden. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why? Everyone's dying everywhere. And that's like another thing too. You kind of like start to develop like trauma. Like, everyone's dying. I have this fear now that, like, not myself, but like the impermanence of things. Like, all of a sudden I look around and I'm like, there's no time left. Oh my God, I'm in my 30s. I'm basically dead now. Everyone around me is gonna die. Like, and I know that that's not true. And I know that I'll be fine and I'll get through it, but you definitely have this like kind of panic after you experience firsthand death like that of a parent or anybody you love. You have this like sense of like, holy shit, like, we're not safe. And so I'm like really careful with the movies that I'm putting on right now. Like, basically I'm just limiting it to like Billy Madison. Like, that is it. Adam Sandler movies, no death. Comedy movies are life right now. And it's important because like seeing people die on TV, it like re-triggers you. It re-triggers like that event, and you kind of like replay everything that you went through. And that's not something I need to be reliving right now. It will haunt me forever. And I'm trying to like flip this energy and move through it, not get over it, but moving through it and dealing with it. But you don't need things that are going to trigger you. Another thing I've noticed, you'll be surprised who reaches out to you. People will reach out to you that it will surprise you, it will shock you. People maybe you're not even that close with, but people who have been through the same thing will reach out to you and be there in a way that it's utterly like heartwarming and disarming. And like the gratitude that I have for the people that reached out to me that maybe we weren't even close before. And then you'll also be shocked by the people who don't reach out to you. Like, I went to one of my jobs that I have where I've worked there almost 2 years, and I'm pretty close with these people, and not one person said anything to me, except for like one girl later on who's been sweet because she also lost her mother. But crazy, like, I went to work like 2 days later and kept my shit together because I'm a professional and I don't believe in bringing my problems to work. So I will always do my best to kind of eat my pain and eat my own tears. And I've always been a suffer in silence type of person. Like, I would never burden other people with my troubles. I can't stand when people are like the victim, where they go in and they're like, guess what happened to me? I had a hangnail today. Woe is me. Like, I can't stand that shit. So I never wanted to be that type of person. So I always have held my grace and just picked myself up and gone and done what needed to be done. Remember, I said I have that kind of standby mode whenever something traumatic happens. So like, I went into work not expecting like sympathy or anything, but like, holy fuck, my mom really did just die. This is crazy. Like, my life is in shambles. And I was bewildered. Like, not one person said anything. It's like, all right, well, fuck you now, and fuck you, and fuck you too. But then I also had amazing people who I'm not even that close with literally come and reach out to me in the most beautiful ways. So it's really been an interesting experience. I fucking am shredded inside about the loss of my mom, and nothing will ever be the same ever again. Nothing will be the same ever again. But I wanted to share some of the things that I was going through because, like I said, the whole reason I started this page was I am an introvert and I want to connect with other people who are like me and want to, you know, grow and heal and support and evolve together. So, man, if you have lost a parent or anyone you're close to, like, just know that, you know, you're not alone. And there are so many people who are experiencing this too. And I think that we, as a human race, need to really be there for each other. And I definitely want to give and extend like the most giant, like, angel wing, heart hug, love that I possibly can to you. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. So hopefully this helps somebody. And yeah, don't hesitate to reach out to me if you guys need to talk to and you've been through this before. Like, I'm a good listener. I may not have advice, but I can listen. I'm a good listener. So at the very least, I can offer you no judgment, unconditional love, and big hugs. So cheers, and I love you guys, and we will talk soon. I have a lot to say. It's been a while since I made a video, and I have a lot to say about what's going on in the world also. So hopefully you guys are well, and we will talk soon.